right from the 1960, when Nigeria got its independence, the first coup, corruption was mentioned.
As in, how can the people now contribute in this fight against corruption?
When you look at it, fighting of corruption is not one man business. It's a teamwork. It's a teamwork. If we can come together and fight corruption, we can bury everything overnight.
As a citizen of Nigeria,
what can be done to make the society better? You know, as a woman here, you know, as a mother.
The society doesn't want to give these women opportunities because they think these women can come and dominate the role men play in the society.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the program, The Advocate. My name is Jack Vincent Fidelis and I'm your host. On the program today, I have as guests Dr. Bukar Gaji, who is a senior lecturer with the Department of History, University of Maiduguri. Sir, you are welcome.
How are you? Welcome.
Fine, thank you.
Very much appreciate you.
Corruption has taken over the fabric of the nation. Corruption is the reason Nigeria is termed backward. And the need to fight this is rife. It's on this note that I want Dr. Bukar Gaji to tell us presently, how would you score politicians in the country at all levels in terms of fighting corruption and being accountable to the masses?
Well, of course, first of all, if we critically look at the damages or the liability corruption causes to our dear country, Nigeria, to individuals, citizenry, and as well as to our politicians, there is no gainsaying the fact that corruption has eaten deep the fabric of the Nigerian society. Our politicians are not left out. They are involved in the act of corruption. And before I fire myself, it will not be out of place, or rather, I will say it is pertinent to note with grave concern the way and manner our present-day politicians gave their hand or soak their hand in corrupt practices. Our politicians of yesterday, with particular reference to the First Republic politicians, people like Alhaji Tafawa Balewa, the first and the only Prime Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and other northern and other premiers of northern region, western region, and of course, southern region, a few exception to this Kalkawom, which is corruption. Corruption has really caused a lot of havoc to our nation. It is indeed the bane of the nation, where accountability, transparency, due process, and rule of law is thrown to the dustbin. And that is why our country, Nigeria, is lagging behind, and her name is blacklisted in the Committee of Nations. Where you have pervasive corruption in the land, so many things will definitely happen. That is why you have record cases of insecurity.
All right. This issue of insecurity, I understand, is a result of corruption in the system. A result of corruption in the system. Good.
No doubt about that.
And now, from everything you are saying, you don't seem to have scored the politicians high in terms of fighting corruption and being accountable to the masses.
Yes, of course. There is reason, or rather there is a strong basis for not giving them a strong and a pass mark. As regards their attitude or their general behavior towards fighting corruption, it is very unfortunate. This story is very sad. Because our politicians, especially those that we elected to power, instead for them to fight corruption headlong, they are not doing anything better than what they are supposed to do. Because in terms of fighting corruption, they are the one that promote the culture of corruption. Significantly, if you measure in the scale of balance or the scale of reference, you will discover that our politicians are worst promoters of corruption. Because in the first 19 years or thereabout of the appearance of party politics and democratic governance within the context of Nigeria, you can see that Nigeria's position in the fight against corruption has risen, and corrupt practices is moving by leaps.
All right. Since the older generations did very well in your estimation, and the current crop of political leaders we have are not doing that well, how do you think this can be corrected? What can be done to change this for the better?
Well, of course, government come, government go. That tangentially explain the fact that leadership change as government move on and the transition would be placed. As far as Nigerian history is concerned, corruption has remained a cancer or a monster. And that our politician really has assisted towards that wise. If you carefully look at the index in terms of transparency and accountability internationally, Nigeria is rated at 140-something position.
And that's not good at all.
It's not very good, and it really tarnished the image of the country. And in fact, and that is why developmentally and otherwise we are retrogressing. And that, in spite of hue and cry, in spite of the need to inject some semblance of sanity, it defied all solutions. You can see EFCC, ICPC, Code of Conduct Bureau, as well as Code of Conduct Tribunal. Agencies or institutions of government that are out to superintend and that are out to checkmate corrupt practices are not doing their best. And up to this point in time, since the inception of a democratically elected government, either the PDP or the FEC, a serious fight against this crime has not been fought.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I most appreciate and thank you very much for that. You see, I understand that you are a comrade yourself.
Yes.
Good. And now, as a comrade, are pressure groups and civil society organizations making any meaningful contribution in the fight against corruption?
Well, of course, here you have a country that is not averse to the nitty-gritty of camaraderie, the spirit of camaraderie, like the other countries that were carved out of France, meaning the Francophone countries. The consciousness, sensitization, mobilization, and the bendings for upward social enlightenment is basically and drastically lacking. Unlike the other time around, during the June 12, 1993 presidential election, where the pro-democracy elements, as well as vocal few and the social critics, rented the air in the protection of democracy. But that also translates to the fact that now this time around, after the enthronement of democracy, people are aloof and people are not alive to their responsibility.
Thank you very much. I must have to stop you there for time. Well, in case you're just joining us, the program is The Advocate, a program designed to deliberate on issues of anti-corruption and issues of accountability in governance. If you are still with us, I will crave that you bear with us until we come back after the break to pay some bills.
Right from the 1960s, when Nigeria got its independence, the first coup, corruption was mentioned.
As in, how can the people now contribute in this fight against corruption?
When you look at it, fighting of corruption is not one man business. It's a teamwork. If we can come together and fight corruption, we can bury everything overnight.
As a citizen of Nigeria,
what can be done to make the society better? You know, as a woman here, you know, as a mother.
The society doesn't want to give these women opportunities because they think these women can come and dominate the role men play in the society.
You are welcome back. The program is The Advocate, and my guest is Dr. Bukar Gaji, a senior lecturer with the Department of History, University of Maiduguri. I have been having this discussion with him, and he has been very impressive. Well, Doctor, you see, what can be done to ensure that transparency in governance becomes a working part of the system?
Yes, actually, for transparency, for institutions that are in fact responsible for the promotion of anti-corruption crusade, for it to be formidable and credible, all hands should be on decks, and in fact the movers and the shakers of the society should be alive to their responsibility, and there should ought to be a check and balance, where we should be our brothers' keepers and we should be lover of our great country, Nigeria.
That's true.
And that, in fact, the agencies should be just and prudent, and they should be detribalized in the fight against this monster, this cancer called corruption. And in fact, corruption itself is as old as history. If you carefully look at or peruse at the Kitab al-Faruq of Usman Danfodio, in fact, he reiterated his commitment to wage war against corrupt leaders during the 19th century Sokoto country. And of course, President Olusegun Obasanjo, if you vividly recollect in his Jaji declaration, he really, in fact, committed his whole resources and that of the nation to fight corruption. You have also the war against indiscipline, watched by President Buhari, and also you have ethical revolution, that was launched by Alhaji Shehu Shagari, and you have also mass mobilization on social justice and economic recovery, launched by General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. All were intended to, in fact, bring about a better and just society, a society where each and every one of us should have a sense of belonging, because corruption has really scattered the fabric of the nation. And
I'm really very happy that you went down memory lane to recall some of the policies that were put in place to ensure we fight corruption to the knees. Now, all these things have been done over the years, yet corruption keeps rearing its ugly head in the system. Nigeria is still bedeviled by it. Is there a possibility that we can put an end to corruption in this country?
Well, of course, there are bountiful or there are coterie of solutions to this. Certainly, if we have the right people in place.
What are these solutions?
The right people are those who are considered to be, undisputably truthworthy. The society knows them, the community knows them, I and you know them, but actually they are not being given the leverage or the freedom or the opportunity to occupy the political space as a result of a lot of factors, which includes one of which fundamentally includes godfatherism, tribalism. In short, what I can rather term as politics of ethnicity and tribalism, where people only try to recognize, other political factors within the freeism of I know you, you come from where I come from, and this vicious cycle continues and unabated. And that is the reason why the God-fearing and the truth-worthy people are not allowed to, in fact, occupy exalted political position. And you and I know also what transpired in the just concluded local, national, state, elections, where it in fact appeared to be a fog of war, and then it was merely a survival of the fittest, where the most brilliant, the honest, are not been given the ample opportunity and the real chance to, in fact, prove their merit.
Then how can we change this for the better? You see, we were able to point out issues that affect us negatively, these corrupt practices. It's not enough to discuss these things. It's not enough to point them out. It's not enough to talk about them. Something needs to be done about them. Something needs to be done about them.
Yes,
what is that something?
Something concrete, something tangible. Yes. So long as people have grace for materialism, mad desire to accumulate ill-gotten money, hardly we can stop that. But there should be an inner discipline within us. There should be moral, moral, spiritual, intellectual, societal, and economic justification for us to stay away from anything that will, amounting to committing this cancerous or monstrous, aspect, which is corruption. And then the fact that we the same people, eulogize, romanticize, you understand me, respect, you understand me, and accord, high prestige to corrupt individuals. But if we will not mind, we will think over these trends, if we despise them, certainly there will going to be a complete, departure from the common norms, which is corruption and then bribery and all of that.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Now, what punishments, from your experience, what punishment do you think is capable of dissuading government officials from corrupt practices?
Well, in fact, the issue of corruption, as I earlier pointed out, is an old history. You know, in fact, 1806, during this Osman Dampodio, I cited the example, and the Oba Olo of Benin Kingdom. In fact, he engaged in kind of a privilegacy, where he even went ahead to settle other people's death using the instrumentality of state treasury. And then, in fact, he committed himself to settle all debts, and this, in fact, is an unwarranted tendency. And this also really will lead us to the fact that the issue of corruption come to the front burner during the 70s, when, in fact, Yakubu Gawan, who came to governance on the 1st August 1965, and then the government was terminated as a result of coup d'etat on the July 29, 1975. Really, in fact, that really has created a lot of vista for others to, to swim in the ocean of corrupt practices. And mind you, under head of state, under Murtala Mohammed, when he came, he forged the civil service. He forged the civil service because he felt that the civil service was full of dirty, and in fact, most of the technocrats were not people of truthworthiness, are not people who were honest, and this and that. And in fact, from there on, the civil servant now realize that their days can be counted and they cannot stay longer than expected, and so the investment corruption continues, and the craze for the materialism continues unabated. And from there, in fact, corruption become a norm, become a tradition, became a culture, and become a household where it consumes the whole nation. But for us to checkmate this is that we should detach ourselves from corrupt practices. We should also be men of God, and we should also espouse anti-corruption tendency.
Thank you very much.
So that we will keep our room safe, so that government will be better looked upon by the citizenry, and our economy will be improved, and there will going to be a political stability for the country. When you have a political stability, obviously what will by extension happen is, in fact, security.
I appreciate you. I actually wish we have enough time so that you can educate us a whole lot more on these issues we've raised. So I must say thank you for coming to the program.
And before that story, you see, after this point in time, the EFCC, the Code of Conduct Bureau, and whatever, especially with particular reference to Code of Conduct Bureau, governors, president, minister came in and left. They, in fact, declare their asset. And especially when they are coming, when they are going out, the same will apply. But such application is not done, in which I think there is every reason for us to raise dust.
It's really glaring. I mean, it's really obvious now that I have no choice but to bring you back to this program some other time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I appreciate your coming here.
Thank you
very much. It's nice having you.
Thank you very much, and I am very happy and glad to have you here, and for the warm reception you have accorded me. This is a very, a good idea and a welcome development, and happily to as I met you, I will leave you like this in peace, and may you prosper, and may this station, grow in bounds.
Thank you very much.
We have a peace and stability in our country.
Amen.
Yeah,
thank you
very much. Yeah.
Viewer, that is the much we can bring you this week on the program, The Advocate. If you had a great time being with us, Then we can do this again, same time, same station next week. Until then, so long.